If you wanted to learn how to answer C# interview questions, then you have come to the right place. Hey everyone, welcome to our Simplilearn's YouTube channel. Today, we'll talk about one of the exciting topics in C#, that is C# interview questions and answers. But before we begin, let me tell you guys that we have daily updates on multiple technologies. So, if you're a tech geek in a continuous hunt for latest technological trends, then consider getting subscribed to our YouTube channel and don't forget to hit that bell icon to never miss an update from Simplilearn. This tutorial video has 50 interview questions and all these questions are divided into 3 levels: beginner, intermediate and advanced levels. So without further ado, let's get started with the first topic. Now before getting into any interview questions, I would like to reveal the first type of questions that are the coding interview questions. It is obvious that in any technical interview, you will be asked to code some or the other program. So we have brought the most frequently asked top 5 coding based questions in C#, which are: write a program in C# to reverse a string, write a program in C# to find if a given string is a palindrome or not, write a C# program to find the substring from a given string, write a C# program to find if a positive integer is prime or not, and lastly, write a singleton design pattern and how to implement them in C#. So these are the most frequently asked coding based interview questions based on C#, and if you want, we would like to share these codes with you. Please feel free to share us your email IDs in the comment section below so that we can share you all these codes. Now let's start with the beginner level interview questions. So our first question is how the C programming language differs from C# programming language. The first difference is that the C programming language allows for procedural programming, whereas C# programming language provides object-oriented programming. The second difference is that C programming language supports pointers, whereas in C#, pointers are only used in unsafe mode. The third difference between C and C# is that garbage collection is not supported in C, whereas in C#, garbage collection is handled by the Common Language Runtime or CLR. The next difference between the both is the C programming language is cross-platform. In contrast, the .NET framework is required to run on the C# language only. Fifth difference between C and C# is we can achieve a low level of abstraction using C programming language, whereas in C# we can achieve a high level abstraction. The last difference between the both is the C programming language is primarily used in commercial industries and engineering, whereas C# on the other hand is used for software development and other network related goals. The second question is, what is an object and a class in C#? The answer for this question is, a class is a collection of properties and methods used to represent a real-time entity. It is data structure that groups all the instances into a single unit. Whereas an object of a class is defined as an instance. Technically, it is simply a block of memory that can be stored as variables, arrays, or collections. For example, the car is working as a class on my screen, and the objects are Ford and Audi, which are the car manufacturers. Next is, what are the fundamentals of object-oriented programming? The answer for this question is, the object-oriented programming language or OOPS in C# is divided into 4 concepts, that is encapsulation, abstraction, inheritance, and polymorphism. Let's take a closer look at each of the 4 object-oriented programming concepts. First, encapsulation. Encapsulation is defined as when an object's internal representation is hidden from the view outside its definition, it is said to be encapsulated. Only the necessary information is accessible while the rest of the data implementation is hidden. Next, abstraction. Abstraction is the process of identifying and eliminating irrelevant details from the object's critical behavior and data. Following the OOPS concept, inheritance is the ability to create new classes from existing ones. It is accomplished by gaining access to, altering, and extending the behavior of objects in the parent class. Lastly, we have polymorphism. Polymorphism is defined as a name that means one name, many forms. It is accomplished using several methods with the same name but different implementations. Now we have the next question, that is, what is the Common Language Runtime or CLR? So the answer for this question is, the Common Language Runtime manages the execution of .NET programs, CLR. The just-in-time compiler translates compiled code into machine instructions. This is the program that the computer runs. CLR provides memory management, exception handling, type safety, and other services. Now, let's look at the next question. What is managed and unmanaged code? So, managed code is executed by CLR, Common Language Runtime, on which all application code is based. The Internet platform, because of this, is regarded as managed internally. The .NET framework uses the garbage collector to clear unused memory. Whereas unmanaged code is any code executed by an application runtime in a framework other than .NET. The application runtime will handle memory, security, and other performance operations. Next we have, what exactly is an interface? In C#, an interface is a class blueprint. It is like an abstract class in that all the methods declared within the interface are abstract. It cannot have a method body and cannot be instantiated. Instead, it can be used to achieve multiple inheritances that can't reach. The following example demonstrates an odd-even class has access to both the even and odd classes. Now we have the next question. What are the different types of classes in C#? So the answer for this question is, there are 4 different types of classes in C#. The first is partial class, which states that its members can be divided or shared across multiple files. The keyword partial denotes it. The second class is abstract. An abstract class is one whose object cannot be instantiated. The only way to get the class is to inherit. It must include at least one method. The keyword abstract denotes the abstract classes. The next class is sealed class. A sealed class cannot be inherited. To access a sealed class members, we must create a class's object. Then the keyword seal denotes it. The last and the fourth class in C# is static. This class does not allow inheritance. The class's members are also static. The keyword static denotes this type of class. The keyword instructs the compiler to look for any static class instances created by accident. Now, the 9th question. What is the difference between equality operator and equals method in C#? The difference between the equality operator, which is double equals to, and equals method in C# is the double equals operator and the equals method compare two values or reference type data items. This answer explains the fundamental distinction between two. The comparison operator is the equality operator and the equals method compares the contents of the string. The double equals to operator compares the identity of reference, whereas the equals method compares the only reference. Now we have the 10th question. Explain code compilation in C#. The answer for this question is, in C#, code compilation consists of 3 steps. The C# compiler compiles the source code into managed code, putting the newly created code together into assemblies. Then, the common language runtime is being loaded and CLR is carrying out the assembly. Now we have the 11th question. What are the differences between a class and struct? The answer for this question is, the first difference is class can inherit, whereas struct cannot. The second difference is a class is passed by reference type, whereas struct is passed by value type. The next difference is class members are private by default, whereas in struct, members are public by default. The fourth difference is class is appropriate for large complex operations and objects, though struct is appropriate for small isolated models. The last difference between the both is we can use a garbage collector to manage memory in class, whereas a struct cannot use garbage collector and thus cannot manage memory. The next question is, what is the difference between virtual method and abstract method? Virtual method is default implementation of virtual process is always required. It can, however, be overridden in the derived class, though this is not required. For example, the override keyword can be used to override it. Though an abstract method has no implementation, it belongs to the abstract class. Therefore, derived class must implement the abstract form. Although an override keyword is not required in this case, it can be used. Now the 13th question. Explain namespaces in C#. Namespaces are employed in organization of large code projects. For example, in C#, the most common namespace is system. We can create our namespaces and use one namespace with another known as nested namespaces. The keyword namespace is used to identify them. Following the C# interview questions and answers, the next question is, what is the using statement? The answer for this question is, the using keyword indicates the program uses the specified namespace. As an example, consider system. The system is a namespace in this context. The class console is defined in the system module. So in our program, we can use a console write line and read line. Now the next question is, explain abstraction. One of the object-oriented concepts is abstraction. It is used to display only the class's essential features and hide unnecessary information. Let us use a car for an example. A car driver should be familiar with the vehicle's details such as color, name, mirror, steering, gear, brake, and so on. He doesn't need to know about the internal combustion engine and an exhaust system. As a result, abstraction aids in knowing what is required and concealing internal details from the outside. Internal information can be hidden by declaring such as parameters as private and using the private keyword. The following question is, explain polymorphism. Polymorphism in programming means the same method but different implementations. It is classified into two types: compile-time polymorphism and runtime polymorphism. The compile-time polymorphism resolves the call in compile-time polymorphism is also referred to as static binding, early binding, and overloading. The compiler does not resolve the runtime polymorphism call and is also referred to as dynamic binding, late binding, or overriding. For example, a man acts as a father, a husband, and an employee all simultaneously. The next question: how is exception handling implemented in C#? In C#, exception handling is accomplished using 4 keywords: try, catch, finally, and through. In try contains a block of code that will be checked for exceptions. In catch, a program that catches an exception with the help of the exception handler. In finally, it is a block of code written to run regardless of whether an exception is caught or not. And finally, through. Throw is when a problem occurs, it throws an exception. Followed by exception handling, we have another question. That is, what are the C# input and output classes? What are commonly used for input and output classes? The system.io namespace in C# contains classes used to perform various operations on files such as creating, deleting, opening, closing, etc. The following are some of the examples of commonly used input-output classes, which are file, StreamWriter, StreamReader, stringWriter, stringReader, path, etc. File aids to the manipulation of a file. StreamWriter is the class that is used to write characters to a string. The StreamReader is used to read characters from string. The stringWriter is used to write a string buffer. The stringReader is used to read the string buffer. The path is used to perform operations on path information. Followed by that, the next question is, what is StreamReader or StreamWriter class? The answer for this question is, the namespace system.input-output contains the classes StreamReader, StreamWriter, which are used to read and write character 90 reader-based data. Members of StreamReader are close, read, and read line. Members of StreamWriter are close, write, and write line. There is an example on my screen where you have code block to read and a code block to write using StreamReader and StreamWriter. Now the next question, what is a destructor in C#? Destructor are used to clear memory and free resources. In C#, however, this is handled by a garbage collector on its own. Internally, system.gc.collect is used to clean up, but it may be necessary to implement destructors in some classes manually. The following is an example of vehicle acting as a destructor using the tide symbol. Following the 20th question, we have the 21st question, which says, what is an abstract class? So the answer for this question is, an abstract class is denoted by the abstract keyword and only be used as a base class. This class should always be inherited. It is impossible to create an instance of the class itself. If we don't want any program to create an object of a class, we can make it as categories abstract. There are no implementations of any methods in the abstract class. They must be implemented in the child class. Here's an example that shows an abstract as ABS, then the child as child class that inherits the ABS abstract class, and finally an object as CS, one of the accesses the addition function via a new process called submission. In abstract classes, methods are all implicitly virtual. As a result, the virtual keyword should not be used with any abstract classes methods. They must, however, be implemented in the child class. The next question is, what is the difference between boxing and unboxing codes? Boxing is converting a value type to a reference type. At the same time, unboxing is the explicit conversion of the same reference type back to the value type. The following is an example. Val1 is 50, which is going through boxing process, and val1 is converted into object boxing val, which is then converted back into an unboxing variable after the boxing process. The following question is, what is the difference between continue and break statement? The break statement terminates the loop. It causes the program control to exit the loop. In contrast, the continue statement instructs the program's power to go only to the current iteration. However, it does not affect the loop. The following is an example for break statement in which the break keyword is used to terminate the loop, going from 0 to 10 immediately. The continue block of code is used to skip the current iteration of loop. The final question for the beginner level is, what is the difference between final, finally, and finalize blocks? Final is a keyword that indicates that a variable, method, or a class is unchangeable, to put it simply. Finally, like try and catch blocks, it is used for exception handling. The final block is always executed regardless of whether an exception is raised. This block is mainly used to close database connections, input-output resources, etc. Lastly, the finalize method in java.lang protected method object type, it is passed down to every Java class you create. Therefore, the garbage collector thread calls this method before removing an object from memory. Now we have reached the intermediate level. The 25th question on our list is, what exactly is an array? So the answer for this question is, an array is a data structure that stores multiple variables of the same data type. It is a set of variables stored in a single memory location. Here's an example of Mark's array with 5 integer values, 10, 20, 30, 40, and 50. A single dimensional array is a linear array that stores variables in a single row. The preceding example is a one-dimensional array. Arrays can have multiple dimensions. Rectangular arrays are another name for multi-dimensional arrays. We have a multi-dimensional array as numbers with 3 rows and 3 columns with 1, 2, and 3 in the first row, 3, 4, and 5 in the second row, and 4, 5, and 6 in the third row. Now the next question is, what is a jagged array? A jagged array is an array with array elements. It is also known as an array of arrays and can have a single dimension or multiple dimensions. Here's an example of jagged array. A jagged array with 4 rows. In the first row, we have 2 values, 1 and 2. The next row contains values 3, 4, and 5, and 6. The third row includes 3 values, 7, 8, and 9, and the fourth row contains 5 values, that is 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Now the next question. Name some properties of arrays. An array has following properties, that is length. This function returns the total number of elements in an array. Size. This indicates whether the array's length is fixed or not. Read-only. This indicates whether the array is read-only or not. Now we have 28th question. What is an array class? Arrays can be created, manipulated, searched for, and sorted using array class. However, the array class does not belong to the system. However, the collection's namespace is still considered because it implements the list interface. Therefore, the array class serves as the foundation for array supporting language implementations. We have an array class called colors, and we have 4 colors: red, blue, green, and yellow. We print those colors in this array class example. Now the next question is, what exactly is a string? What are the characters of string class? A string is the grouped character objects, string variables, that can be declared in C#. A string class in C# represents a string. In the following example, we have a string called name that is inserted by C# interview questions and answers. The string class has the following properties. Character returns the current string's character object. The length function returns the number of objects in this current string. Now the 30th question. What is an escape sequence? Name some strings escape sequences in C#. In C#, A backslash indicates the escape sequence. The backslash indicates that the character should be interpreted literally or unique. An escape sequence is treated as if there were a single character. First, we have \n, which means new line character. Next, we have \b, which is used for backspace. Then we have 2 times of backslash, which represents backslash itself. After that, we have a single backslash quote, and lastly, we have backslash double quote. Now, the 31st question. What are regular expressions? Search a string using regular expressions. A regular expression is a template that can match a set of input operators, constructs, and character literals can all be used in the pattern. For example, regex is used for string parsing and character string replacement. An example occurs 0 or more times before the preceding character. As a result, A star B regex is equivalent to B, AB, AAB, AAB, and so on. Following is the code language program in which we have strings as C, C++, and C#. Then we have CL as an object and try to find the string C#. As we can see, C# is present in the following string. So we will print as a match is found. Now the next question. What are the fundamental string operations? Explain. The following are some examples of basic string operations. The first operation is concatenate. A system can concatenate 2 strings, string concatenate or use the plus operator. The next string operation is we have modify. Replace x, y is the function that replaces one string with another. The trim function is used to cut a string at the end or beginning. Third string operation is compare operation. System.string comparison is used to compare 2 strings either case sensitively or not at all. It requires 2 parameters, the original string and the string to be compared with. The last operation is a search operation used to find specific string, using the start with and ends with methods. Following question is, what exactly is parsing? How do you parse a date and time string? The answer for this question is, parsing is a process of converting a string into another data type. For example, consider the string value 100, which we are attempting to convert into a number variable of integer data type using parse function. As a result, the parse method converts string 100 into its base type, that is integer. Following the same method to convert date time string date time is equals to date July 24, 2011. Date time parsed val is equals to date time and parse method date time. We will now move into the advanced level interview questions. Now the first one in advanced level interview question is, what is a delegate? Explain. A delegate is a variable that holds the reference to a method. Hence, it is a function pointer or reference type. All delegates are derived from system.delegate namespace. Both delegate and the technique that it refers can have the same signature. Declaring a delegate public delegate void some numbers int number. Following a delegate's declaration, the representative must create the object using new keyword. Some numbers sn1 is equals to some new numbers of number. The delegate acts as an encapsulation for the reference method, which is called internally when a delegate is called. Now, the next question. How to use delegates with events? Delegated authority is used to initiate and manage events. A delegate must always be declared first, followed by the events. This diagram gives 3 functions to delegate and the delegate to generate an event, that is an event generator. The next question is, what are events? Events are user actions that cause the application to receive notifications to which it must respond. User actions can include mouse movements, key press, and so on. A class that raises an event is known as a publisher, and the class that responds or receives the event is known as a subscriber. If an event does not have one subscriber, it is never raised. Events are declared using delegates. In this example, we have delegates as print NOS and event names as myEvent1. Now the next question is, what are the different types of delegates? And there are 3 types of delegates. The first one is single delegate. A single delegate is a delegate that can only call one method. The second type of delegate is the multicast delegate. A delegate that can call multiple methods is known as a multicast delegate. The plus and minus operators are used to subscribe and unsubscribe. The third type of delegate is the generic delegate. It does not require a definition of an instance, and it is classified into three types, that is action, function, and predicate. So the action is, in the preceding example of delegates, the events, we can use the action keyword to replace the definitions of delegate and event. Function. A function delegate defines a method that can take arguments and results. And lastly, we have predicate, a method that can be called with arguments and always returns a bool. Now, followed by that, we have the 38th question. What do multicast delegates mean? So the answer for this question is, in C#, multicast delegate is a delegate that holds the references to a multiple functions. When we invoke the multicast delegate, we gather all the tasks that the delegate refers. For example, if you want to use a delegate to call multiple methods, all the method signatures must be seen. Let's see a code example to multicast delegate. This program uses a namespace delegate and then declares delegate as a multi-delegate with formal arguments a and b. We define the addition and subtraction functions in the class program, which we declare and calculate as plus b and a minus b respectively. Then in the main function, we create a class program object p1. Then we declare md1 and md2 objects for addition and subtraction operations. Then we assign md1 to md1 and md2, giving a value of 100 to a and a value of 200 to b. Now let's try to execute the program and see the output. Now the next question is, what are synchronous and asynchronous operations? So the answer for this question is, synchronization is a technique for writing thread-safe code in which only one thread can access a resource at any given time. Before continuing with the program flow, the asynchronous call waits for the method to complete. In asynchronous mode, the method calls return immediately so that the program can perform other operations while the called method completes its work. The async and await keywords are used to achieve asynchronous programming in C#. Our next question is, what exactly is reflection in C#? Reflection is the ability of a code to access the assembly's metadata during runtime. A program reflects itself and uses metadata to inform or change its behavior. System of namespace reflection includes methods and classes for managing the information of all loaded types and techniques. It is primarily used in Windows applications such as viewing the properties of a button in a Windows form. The class reflection members inform object is used to discover the attributes associated with the class. Following that, we have reached the next question, that is the 41st question. What is a generic class? Generics is also known as generic classes, create courses or objects with no specific data type. For example, the data type can be assigned in runtime, that is, the program uses it. Let's see a simple code for generic class. In this program, we have namespace as generic class, public class test class, and G to represent the generic class. After that, we define an array, namely object1 of generic type with length 5. Then we have int variable as count 1. Then we have a function as sum adding items mechanism into a generic type. Next, we have to keep adding items to an array until the count plus 1 is less than 6. Then we have to keep increasing the count value by 1. Following that, we have an index variable for each statement iteration in which we have to get and set properties. The get property is used to return the index value, and the set property is used to set a value with the same name as the index value. Finally, we instantiate a generic with an integer with the object name int obj in the main method. Then we add integer values to the array, and finally we multiply all the values in the array. Now let's try to execute this code and see the output. Now the program got successfully executed, and you can see the output right on my screen. Now the next question. Explain get and set access properties. Get and set are referred to accesses. Properties make to use these. The property implements a mechanism for reading and writing the value of a private field. These accesses are used to gain access to a private field. The get property method is used to retrieve the value of a property. To change the value, use set property accessor. And let's see an example to understand this in a much better way. We have a class name as a person name in this program, followed by two variants. Firstly, we have a private variable as n for the person's name. Then we have public variable as name1. We have get property that returns variable m, and finally we have a set property that assigns variable m to the variable value. Next, the value keyword denotes the value that we transfer to the property n. Next, in the main function, we have an object name as my name, where we give the name as ABC, and finally we display the person's name as ABC. Now, the output is on my screen right over here. Now let's get back to the PPT. The next question is, what exactly is a thread? And what is multithreading? A thread is a collection of instructions that can be executed to allow a program to perform concurrent processing. Concurrent processing will enable us to perform multiple operations at the same time. C# has a thread by default. However, the other threads can be created to run code in parallel with the original code. This is accomplished by having different threads handle different processes, referred to as multithreading. To handle multi-threaded operations, several thread methods are used. Start, sleep, about, suspend, resume, and join are all options. The next question is, name some properties of thread class. Some of the properties of thread class are, first we have isAlive property. It has worth then when a thread is active. This value is actual. The following property is name, which returns the thread's name. Also, can set name for the thread. Following that, we have the next property as priority, which returns the prioritized value of the task set by the operating system. The background is the following property of thread class. It gets or sets the value that indicates whether a thread should be a background process or a foreground process. Last property is, we have thread state, which describes the thread state. On the next question, we have, what are the different states of a thread? So the different states of thread are unstarted state, which means a thread has been created. Next we have running state, which means that the thread begins execution. Wait, sleep, join is the third stage, in which a thread calls sleep, another thread calls wait, and another thread calls join. Next we have suspend state. The thread has been halted. Aborted is the next state, which the thread has died but not been changed to the state stopped. Last is, we have stop state, which means that the thread has come to a halt. Followed by this, we have the next question, which is, what is a deadlock? A deadlock occurs when a process cannot complete its execution because two or more methods are awaiting the completion of another. This is common in multithreading. Followed by that, we have another question, explain lock, monitors, and mutex object in multithreading. A lock keyword ensures that only one thread can enter a specific code section at a time. The preceding example, lock objx, indicates that a lock placed on objx until this process releases it, at which no point no other thread will be able to access obj. Mutex is like lock, but it can work across multiple processes simultaneously. For example, wait one method is used to lock the lock, and release mutex is used to unlock it. On the other hand, mutex is slower than lock because it takes time to acquire and release it. Monitor, enter, and observe internally exits, implements a lock is monitor shortcut internally, and lock objx is called. You can see an example right on my screen. The next question on the list is, what is race condition? A race condition occurs when two threads access the same resource and attempt to change it simultaneously. It is impossible to predict which thread will be the first to access the resource. If we have two threads, T1 and T2, both attempt to access a shared resource called X. If both threads try to access or write a value to X, the last value returned to X is saved. 49th question in the list is, what is serialization and deserialization? The answer for this question is, converting code to binary format is known as serialization. Once converted to bytes, it is simple to store and write to a disk or other storage devices. Serialization is most valuable when we don't want to lose the original form of the code and want to retrieve it at any time in the future. Deserialization refers to recovering C# code from binary form. Now the 50th question. What are the different types of serialization? Now there are various types of serialization which are as follows. The first type of serialization is the XML serialization, the second one is SOAP, and the last and the third one is the binary serialization. Now the 51st question. What is an XSD file? So an XSD file is an abbreviation for XML schema definition. It defines the structure of an XML file. It determines which element should be represented in the form of XML and in what order, and which property should be current. During serialization of C# code, and XSD.exe converts the classes into XSD compilant form. Now, as discussed initially, we will go through some coding-based interview questions. The document of code will be sent to you. Feel free to write your emails in the comment section below so that we can respond to you at the earliest. Now, program 1 is string reverse. So you can see that it is converting Simplilearn into the reverse string, which is here. Now let us go through the second program real quick. Now on my screen you can see the second program. The second program is based on converting or checking if the string is palindrome or not. Let's quickly execute this. You can see that it is asking for enter string. Let us enter pop, and it is saying as the string is a palindrome. Now let us quickly execute the third. Now the third one is based on substring operations. Let's quickly execute the code. Let's enter a string here, Simplilearn. So here you can see the substrings that can be created using Simplilearn. Now let's execute the fourth code. So this program is based on if checking the number is prime or not. So now let's enter a number. Let's enter 7, which is a prime number, which says number is prime. Now the fifth question is based on singleton. Now let's try to execute this code and see the output. Now you can see the code got successfully executed and the output is over here, hello and hi. Now don't you worry about the code. Please feel free to let us know your email IDs in the comment section below and we will have this code sent over to you at the earliest. Now with that, we have come to an end of this session on C# interview questions. If you have any queries regarding any of the topics covered in this session, or if you need the code that we have executed in this particular session, then please feel free to let us know in the comment section below and our team of experts will be happy to resolve all your queries. Until next time, thank you, stay safe and keep learning.
Hi there, if you like this video, subscribe to the Simplilearn YouTube channel and click here to watch similar videos. To nerd up and get certified, click here.